Cannabis, absolutely. And, I know you have a great backstory, Brady, and I never like to tell it because it's unique to you. But now he is the CEO of Sunburn Cannabis here in Florida, and we're so honored to have him. But more so, an expert on really what's going on up in Washington. And I know at the end of the story, you'll tell us how you've kind of developed that side of your career now as really being an insider up there. So once again, I would never steal your bio. So tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're at.
No, thanks, and thanks for having me. Obviously, you've been a driving force in the shaping of how our program's been in Florida. So, all of us that are operators in this space owe you and a lot of the doctors like you that have adopted cannabis as something that actually can help patients and help people on a daily basis and really push the envelope for us. So, debt of gratitude to you as well. It flows both ways. I've been a fan of the space for far longer than my parents would probably like. It's very much a family tradition, as the old Hank Williams song goes. And for me, it's I started my path as a lawyer lobbyist into the sector. I very politically active, primarily practiced in government affairs. I tried cases for 3 or 4 years and found out I love trying cases, but I hated everything about the litigation process because everyone's pretty miserable in it. In most cases settle. So ultimately pivoted into government relations and worked for a gentleman named Jim Scott, who was a great mentor to me, as well as Ed Pizzuali, and had an opportunity to learn that game. And with the eye of always wanted to get into the cannabis industry as our nascent kind of movement began to take, get a foothold out west and start to spread east. And did some of the early cross-border transactions, bringing companies into the US from Canada once Canada went full legal. Did a lot of the early regulatory work in Colorado and out west. And then ultimately, as 2014 rolled around, 2013, 2014, took all the political chips I'd gathered in Tallahassee and started playing the game here and, worked alongside Ben Pillara and that whole crew and getting the constitutional amendment teed up and ultimately getting it through. And then the really hard part, which was the statutory process the following year in 2017. When one of those licenses came down and the 7 converted from low THC, we put a group together. We acquired Liberty Health Sciences, where I was an interim director, interim CEO, then ultimately chief legal officer. But that company took the path of large scale biomass. It took the path of kind of very average low end product, and that's not who I am. I'm one of the few CEOs that's been a public company CEO in this space that openly will talk about being a fan of the plant. I violate the rule. I get high on my own supply. Cannabis has been a part of my life for a really long time. It's something that provides me with relief. It's something that provides me with the ability to de-stress, decompress, and see the field, as I like to say. So for me,
as an attorney, Brady, and not to pop on top of you, but I know one of the fascinating things for you in the space, as for me, is as cannabis user throughout my medical career, to de-stress, to sleep better, to focus better. And listen, you got to fly under the radar for a lot of years, but when you get into the space, you and I have been on panels together, honorably so. And it's such a joy to interact with others who have also been able to utilize cannabis appropriately. And I think it gives you a unique view of the space as a CEO and as an exec and as an attorney, very much as it gives me a unique view of the space as a clinician. So it's one of the real joys of 2022 in that we can interact together openly as having a medical card, doing it with honor, and doing it appropriately. So I apologize for popping on top of you. But I know that's a joy of yours as well.
No, for me, I mean, it used to be in the shadows, but it was something you still pulled off. I mean, even when my father was dying from cancer, I was getting him towards the end. I was, he had prostate cancer that spread to his bones. So, he was prescribed every opiate under the planet and didn't want to take any of it. And I ultimately was getting him at that time. That was 2009, 2010, black market weed and rolling him joints. That was the only way he could eat. And that was a very seminal moment for me where I went, hey, I got to go do this. My son was born in 2010. My father, I pulled his life support, about 7 weeks after my son was born, which was kind of the ultimate high to the ultimate low. But it was very much a get busy living or get busy dying moment for me to say, let's go do this. And let's not have to do this in the shadows anymore. So I ultimately left Liberty in 2018 just because it wasn't for me. They went kind of the large scale biomass, average product, wannabe pharmaceutical route. So we put a group together. We acquired Three Boys Farms. And at Three Boys Farms, we lived and died by the quality of our flower. I didn't want to be the biggest. I didn't want to have the most stores. I wanted to have the best weed in the state, hands down. And I moved a team here to be able to do that. And we built cultivation facilities that were tailor-made to be able to do that. And the entire culture of the company was founded on this one pursuit of honoring the intent of every seed that we planted and bringing the best expression of that plant to the public. Because at the time, we're very much act as a CPG company. We did a full markets and data research, and we do a SWOT analysis and have on the market since the latter part of 2019. Everything was average biomass. When one plant came to town, it was nobody was hand trimming. It was, True Leaf with a 55 share, with most of their business being littles or minis or whatever she used to call them, which was all primarily hoop house weed. And nobody was really bringing a top shelf product to market. And in my humble opinion, I never saw myself as competing with the other MMTCs. I saw myself competing with the street, because the quality on the street far outpaced the quality in the dispensaries. And moreover, it was just the size of the street. When we had at that point in time, call it 400,000, 500,000 patients in the program. You look at that compared to 21 million people. Those other people are buying weed somewhere else. So, the team I brought in was primarily Humboldt County and Denver. We had some really good growers here from Florida too. And I think that's something that's often overlooked too, is all these California brands have flocked to Florida as they're dying in California. Florida has its own cannabis culture. And that's something that we're wrapping our arms around.
Yeah, Greg Gerdeman was, with you, of course, at the time.
Yep.
And everybody knows Greg, respects Greg, and the quality of the product. So bottom line is, when I showed Ruta your bio and what you've done and where you've been and all the things, it's so fascinating. Cool. And here you are, of course. Welcome to Sarasota.
Thank you, man.
With Sunburn Cannabis, right? So you'll wrap up that end of the story. But the bottom line is, you've been there, been doing it. And I'm sure right now, every toe, finger crossed, whatever, or maybe you already have the defibrillator paddles out on what's going on up in Washington and safe. Now, the reason I'm popping to that is that we know what happens in the green room, because we've had such fascinating guests through the years, and we know that we can ramble through this and not get to the meat. So I really want to hear what you know about what's going on in safe up in Washington and everything. But welcome to Sarasota with Sunburn Cannabis, right downtown. It's unbelievable. You had the big window down there, Ruta. You know where it is, right on Main Street, right?
But I want to ask you,
Go ahead.
With Sunburn, so are you still kind of touting like the best product out there? Or are you appealing more towards the masses? So what's your direction now?
No, it's exact. So it was a really humbling thing for me. Once we sold to Cresco, we all, we decided we were leaving Cresco in June. I kept my entire team together from one plant. So everybody's back. It's the same purpose. It's the same mission. But now we have a truly authentic Florida brand, because that Sunburn name, the DEA task force that arrested my father was called Operation Sunburn, because his front business for his 4-year smuggling business was a suntan lotion company. If you look at our logo, you'll see a shrimp boat in the sun. Yeah. We chose the shrimp boat because the shrimp boat was also that's how he moved the weight.
Well, see, that's why I don't tell Brady's story or his bio, because it's him, and he tells the levels to which he wants
to Hollywood and make it like a story.
No, it's actually we built it. The brand was built. The brand's been built for probably 10 years. We ultimately sold it at one point as a Netflix show. They shelved it for a period of time, so we bought the IP back. And just to be able to hold on to it, we didn't, for me, it's all about the top end of the market. So we are, again, going after that top end of the market. We're going after premium hand trim flower. It's the same team as the one plant team, premium solventless concentrates, which we're just starting to really ramp production there. And then how
are your pricing? Just because I'm more of a business person, so obviously than medicine. So so from the business perspective, how are the prices gonna be? Are they gonna be competitive?
Oh yeah, we're at $45 an eighth right now. I just don't play the discount bingo card game. So I will, if you look across our competitors, Curaleaf, True Leaf, Cetera have been running an average of 45 to 50% off every day since October 1st. That's largely driven by the fact that the product quality is just not there. So for us, we reward customers for buying more. So we have a buy more, save more program where you get a certain ticket price. The only other real discount that we do is 25% off for new patients to encourage a patient to come give us a try. and then we let the product do the talking. So
yeah,
ultimately,
we believe in that, Brady, and believe me, we believe at the end of our visit, our educators take our patients through our product display room, and we try to point out, you know, all those different things for patients. We want to try to defray the cost of our visit by the patients knowing where they can go to get the discounts, and of course, where to go to get the better product, right? And, you know, listen, of course, you've always been there to the extent of knowing that it is the quality of the product that is what patients are looking for. Doesn't mean there's not price point and competition, but I think it's very much like in the cannabis physician space. You know, if you want reliability and quality,
reliability. And I want to address this with you, because this is one of the biggest complaints we hear from patients on, like, through any MMTCs, is that the quality, not the quality, but the product itself, like they get used
the
to the consistency. Are you guys planning to keep something where it is consistent? Because we hear it time and time again. A patient gets used to something, it works for them. Next thing you know, they go there and it's not there, and it's not there, and it's not there, and they get so frustrated.
No, yeah. So for us, consistency, run to run from a quality standpoint, and it's often an untold story. But if you guys knew the amount of product that I physically destroyed, didn't sell, because it didn't meet our quality standards. There's over, I think when we closed the MedMen transaction, there was, you know, a couple of thousand pounds that we have not put on the market because it did not meet the standards that were acceptable to us. So, you know, there's certain things. Flower, we're always going to be introducing new phenos. I'm a big believer in the pheno hunt. I'm a big believer in bringing new genetics in, but there will always be, call it 6 to 8 staples in our rotation that people can always, well, just that, you know, as we test them and go through them and QC them, once we find a winner, we keep it. But on the kind of ancillary product side, there will always be a consistent supply of the vapes, as well as, you know, we've just launched a full edibles line. We brought the first CBN gummies to Florida, which CBN gummies are the #1 selling gummies in the country right now, if you look at the headset data set. And we
I guess people are having trouble sleeping. I guess people are kind of having trouble sleeping, Brady.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I wonder why.
We're heading towards the swamp in Washington soon. Although we could pause in Tallahassee too, but maybe we'll go to Washington first, and then we'll get your perspective.
Let's do Washington.
Yeah, let's go to Washington.
Let's do Washington.
So listen, so where's Safe at? And, you know, people that are in the know and have been watching, we're hoping that in the lame duck session, of course, somehow, some way, appropriations or this or that. Where are we?
Yeah, so it's been a long road for the Safe Banking Act. I started working on it in 2000, I want to say 16. And this time, you know, remember this time last year, Safe was teed up as part of the NDAA. Chuck Schumer and Cory Booker killed it, and openly killed it, as I predicted they would have to. And they pivoted to the CAOA, which was largely, as I told them in their office in 2018, would be a flop because it was too big. DC needs incremental reform, and I've been sounding that bullhorn for quite some time. So Safe's that step, and ultimately they pivoted back to it in August, September-ish of this year to say they were going to try to get it done, because all the social equity groups, including Chuck Schumer's home state of New York, where they're trying to put $200 million of state money in a bank, and they can't find a bank to put it in that will actually custody it absent state banking, to help those minorities that have been convicted of cannabis crimes get their first dispensaries open. They can't find a bank to custody the funds, which is exactly what I was screaming from the mountaintop almost a year ago would happen. So where are we right now? There was a push to include it in the NDAA. That was never the path, by the way. The plan that's been laid down was always to be in the omnibus. Part of me thinks that push to put it in the NDAA was a hard snap count on 4th and 1 to see if they could draw someone off sides, or to see where the opposition was. Ultimately, it didn't go in the NDAA. Market ran up when they heard NDAA. Market ran down when it didn't go in the NDAA. Here we are in the omnibus appropriations. And the good news is that the parties were at least able to agree on the framework of an omnibus bill, which means we're going to get an omnibus bill this year. My biggest fear was that, given how partisan and how divided things have been, there would just be a continuing resolution to fund the government through some point in the middle of next year, and that we wouldn't get an omnibus bill, which would have precluded the opportunity for Safe to get any floor time and have a shot. So the fact that they agreed the other night that there's an omnibus that's going to happen by the 23rd means we're officially on the clock and in the game. Now, what is that? Here, it's very simple. The math is very, very simple here. The votes are there for Safe Banking in the Senate. It's already passed the House. No issue in the House. The votes are there. We've counted. We've triple counted. Republican leadership, Democratic leadership. The votes are there. Now, does Chuck Schumer really care about cannabis is the question we're all going to find the answer to between now and December 23rd. Because if he wants to push it, he's the majority leader. He's already given McConnell almost everything on his wish list. Top line appropriations number, check. Non-defense spending number reduced, check. Defense spending number that McConnell wants, check. And a myriad of other little items that Mitch McConnell wanted, he's gotten them. So the horse trade is there. Schumer's just got to play the card. I was talking to our chairman this morning, Danny Moses, who's a big poker player, and he said, "What do you give it to me in poker talk?" I said, "Chuck Schumer with safe banking is sitting on pocket jacks right now. The flop just got laid down. There's a jack in the flop. McConnell's going to bluff bet on 3rd Street, 4th Street, and 5th Street. He's got to call him and play the hand because McConnell will not shut the government down over safe banking. If it's in there, he's going to squawk on the floor, but it'll go through. Chuck Schumer has to play the card. Someone asked me to handicap percentages. At this point, it's a coin toss. I don't, it all comes down to whether Chuck Schumer wants to do this. He's been eerily quiet on the subject of cannabis. After tweeting about it almost every day for the last, call it 300 days, he's been very quiet. So
what motivates him besides what motivates Chuck Schumer, Brady, besides money? Right. Money. Yeah. No. I mean, where's the push?
Thank
right.
you. We all know where it comes from.
I know.
So you got to look at Chuck Schumer's got a tremendous contribution background with the pharmaceutical industry, and they're very well organized. I think one of the biggest things we suffer from in cannabis, and I'm a part of it, so I'm criticizing myself as well. But as an industry and as a movement, the biggest thing that I think we're facing is we're just completely we're a fucking mess from a government affairs standpoint, to put it bluntly. You've got, I don't even know.
Because I even say that even like the physicians now are gathering, and even when we want to do something in Tallahassee, it's so discombobulated. It's like, come on, if everybody you need to pull together and kind of formulate.
No, I mean, look at us. So we're the flea on the dog's ass as an industry. Pharmaceutical and alcohol industries dwarf us by market cap, by size, whatever metric you want. They are very well organized. They have a 65 to 70 year head start. And they also speak in one voice for the most part. Yeah. We have 90 voices. We're the smaller industry, and we just got on the field of play with a kind of an upstart team. So, and I agree with you. Tallahassee has been, we need to. I'm still hopeful we get safe banking through, and again, it's the ball's in Chuck Schumer's hands squarely. But
is there anything that people can do, Brady?
Yes. Yes.
Is there any
follow
outreach?
Me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. There is a link that I pinned to my feed of how to complete a very simple form that will get a form to all of the Senate leadership to push safe banking. I can share that with you as well directly if you guys want to post it too. Pick up the phone and call the offices, because staff does relay to the members on a daily basis. This is how many calls came in on this issue. So please do that. But at the end of the day, we're
across the country. So everybody that's listening, please do that, because we have listeners from everywhere.
Yeah, this goes up on YouTube. We have 110 episodes or something. I don't know what. And listen here, and we've had a lot of honored guests, and it's been great to have you. And it's great to know that you're up there with the context you have and doing what you do. And listen, that's why I ask those things, because people go to the site and Don will pop it up or something. We'll get it. And, it's important. There are certain times when you can make a difference. And, this lame duck, this, that, whatever, let's get it done, and so we're going, and of course we're going into Tallahassee time. So I guess session this year is March to May, because of course they had to go through elections, which kick committee weeks. So do you look for anything that you think can be done in Florida this year that would move the program forward, Brady? And believe me when I tell you, job protections and hospital and nursing home access and veterans cards for free and all the other issues that we as doctors bring up every year. I have no expectation of anything moving again, but getting telehealth back for recertifications would be a tremendous thing. It doesn't increase anybody's amount of cannabis, the potency of cannabis. If you don't do new patients by telehealth, it doesn't bring more patients, God forbid, into the program. It just makes it easier for those that are in it already. So I think maybe we can shame both sides of the aisle into crumbling out one thing for the 800,000 patients here in Florida. So that's going to be my primary focus this year, just as we go forward. But you tell me, do you have any expectation of anything else going on? And how do you view the upcoming legal adult use campaign and those two things?
Yeah, so I think Tallahassee will be another slow year. I am fully aligned with you on telehealth. I think that's a no-brainer, and it's something that should be provided to get people access. It doesn't cost the state anything, and not like it expands the program. So to me, that's a no-brainer. I think, there's been some whispers. There's no surprise. Governor DeSantis is going to likely run for president in the 2024 general. So I'll have a primary battle against Donald Trump. Whatever Republican wins, I don't know if they necessarily want a constitutional amendment on the ballot for cannabis in 2024 during a presidential election to draw a lot of the opposition Democrat voters out. So it's less than a 1% shot, but I am also hearing some whispers that, strategists are looking at, do they try to take care of an adult use issue in Florida legislatively ahead of it going on the ballot so that it draws voters out? That's
what would that look like though, coming out of the legislature right now? Just having a legal adult use program doesn't mean there's going to be that it's going to be good.
Strategically, it would make a lot of sense for it to happen from just a pure voter standpoint, and not having a ballot initiative to draw people out. I think the ballot initiative it is on good footing. I think, it's unfortunate that Trulieve put it in their name. Usually you see these things go in vehicles, put political action vehicles so that the whole industry can coalesce around it. Yeah, I think Kim's faced a little resistance from a lot of the other MMTCs here in the state, not wanting to make it a Trulieve branding experiment because it is sponsored by Trulieve. So I think that was a little short-sighted. I think the amendment text was very well drafted. I think it's sufficient to get through the Supreme Court review. And I hope she gets it done. I truly do. And any help.
I think she is short-sighted. I mean, she's brilliant at what she did and how she marketed Trulieve, but in the same sense, like you said, there's no coalition among the other dispensaries, so I'm
surprised by that, Brady, but I'm interested in that insight. Do you think that could be unraveled? Do you think that could be unraveled, so to speak, so that the industry can coalesce around it? Or do you think it's a fait accompli at this point? Just to the extent of the Bellamy's and really and everything, how it rolled out.
Nobody's jumped in. I mean, I think the proof's in the pudding. No other group has signed on. Yeah. And I think it's just largely because when we did it in 2016, there was an organization that was third party led by Ben Pillara and his team and Eric Stevens, and everyone wrote a check into that, and they were a part of it. It was a nameless, faceless, brandless organization where everyone could say, "Hey, we're a part of that."
Part of it.
Instead of it's a Trulieve amendment, and only Trulieve stores are collecting signatures. Yeah. Imagine if all of the 400 plus or minus stores in Florida had signature clogged in them because people were excited about it. So I think, again, it was just a bit of a vanity moment that I don't think was very well thought out.
In full disclosure, I was on the Zoom call of Kim's meeting that she had at the Waldorf, to attempt to speak to the industry. I was on that meeting and in that call, and she talked about attempting to bring in the other MMTCs to a certain extent, and hey, no commentary else needed. I'm sorry that it didn't happen to the extent of the coalescence, because I think that would surely be,
party, just organize a party and just
a better approach.
Really, just.
But if it hits the ballot, of course it's going to pass.
I think it'll pass. But you got to remember that the way that it's been done in the past is we got to get Supreme Court review here pretty quick. We got to get the automatic signatures to trigger it. Otherwise, they're just going to run the clock out on ballot printing. Yep. Which, you got to have that done and certified kind of by, I think the ballots get printed in January or February of 24. Right. So TikTok, we're about to be inside of 12 months. So, and that Supreme Court process can get bogged down pretty quick if all of the relative agencies in Tallahassee that matter start filing amicus briefs and intervener petitions, et cetera. I used to do a lot of ballot work when I was at Trip Scott. We did the Fair Districts Amendment in the redistricting in 2010. So it can get messy quick, but again, kudos to Kim for leading the charge. I don't think it was structurally set up the right way, but I think the ballot text is sufficient to get through Supreme Court review. So we'll see. It's going to be, let's put it this way. If Florida goes adult use, it's the #1 market in the country overnight, hands down, bar none.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And our goal will always be to make sure we protect medical, the integrity of our
Correct.
product, the labeling, the testing, and we've talked about it, it's the labeling for terpenes and other minor cannabinoids.
I had a question for you.
Sure. Yep. Oh, great.
What is your thought as someone that I have a tremendous amount of respect for in this space? You see all these varying testing issues coming out of Tallahassee. As I was an operator, it blew my mind that I could see stuff testing at close to 40% THC that was, hoop house grown. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And, what is your thought on how OMU has dealt with it? And more importantly, how it seems like they're actually starting to wake up to it. What's your thought on that whole process? Because right now there's such a variability in testing between, it's getting more harmonized, but that to me is a major, as I look at the industry and having it be adopted by the broader masses, that's an issue that we have to deal with, I think, head on. I'd love your perspective on it.
I don't think there's tons of trust in the testing process right now, quite frankly, because there's been absolutely no transparency, no participation. When I went to Tallahassee and I was in front of the press and stood to speak against the dose cap recommendations that they, imposed. My big point was that they have not set up an advisory committee at the OMU level of boots on the ground docs, research docs, MMTC reps, lab rep, patient rep, all of it. And it's an insult after 6 years. So I would say, Brady, that I always shake my head at the numbers that I see, especially on the flower, because I know to jam the trichomes, so to speak, because remember, I'm a Greg Gerdeman disciple. So the first person that I ever really interacted with, in cannabis was Greg. And that was a blessing to me. And we used to call it the Dr. G and Dr. G show. And he taught me about trichomes, what you can do and what you can't do. So to me, I'm always fascinated in those 24% or so cultivars that could have this amount of THC, but a CBD component on the underside too. But I know you can't jam the plant, to that extent and have quality products. So we all know it's not the percentage of THC content, so to speak, but the terps and the flavonoids and all the other beautiful things. So
one thing I'll tell you to look out for starting in January. So all of our new strains and all of our stuff that's been done our way is in the Sunburn stores now, and it's just going to continue. And some of the new cultivars we just ran testers on, I've got 4 strains north of 3% terps right now. So the heat's coming, and it's I focus much more on that terp profile too. But I'll be interested to see how this testing regimen evolves in Tallahassee.
Yeah, we haven't had the impact within the process to really know and trust what's going on up there, and that's unfortunate. I think. I am very comfortable in the, lead testing and heavy metals and contaminants. I think the product is safe and pure, but I think to the extent of quality, and mold testing and all that. But I think to the extent of quality, of percentages and things of that nature, we don't have the insight to know for sure.
We just got a question from a listener. So they wanted to know the closest location because they're excited about Sunburn. So the closest location is, I believe, in
Let's
Sarasota.
go that way, of course. Main Street, right in Sarasota, right? And tell what's next for you guys, Brady.
So we're doing Orlando and Jacksonville this week. So Jacksonville Beach and Orlando this week, which will then be followed by Pensacola, St. Petersburg. And then we'll be opening Key West, Deerfield Beach, and then ultimately Miami Beach as well. And then we have 2 more stores in Jacksonville we're going to open too, one downtown in 5 Points and then one in the San Jose area. So we'll be at 13 by call it April.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. And listen, just to speak to the Sarasota store, it's very unique. It's right downtown. It gives me an excuse to go downtown from here in Venice. And, listen, I call it Sunday morning breakfast and a visit to the Sunburn right there on Main Street.
Farmers Market.
No, Saturday Farmers Market.
Farmers Market's even better. Just go right in.
And just to speak to the uniqueness of the store, there's big windows. You can actually walk in and you can talk to the staff, in contrast to some other dispensaries where products are, this, that, whatever. And they're very friendly down there. I know your guys there, Brady. I know I told you this when I texted you. Great bunch of staff and crew there. And believe me, they feel very passionate about your product. But unique to it is that there's foot traffic down there of people that have no idea what it is that they're looking at. And of course, with all the Delta 8 and 10 and 6
Yeah.
and all the rogue cannabinoids, we could have you on for another half hour and talk
Please.
about that aspect. No, because listen, I just was gonna, and I know we gotta wrap it up, Don, because I got patients waiting too. I was just on a call from West Virginia, Brady. They're having that same 10% THC cap battle up there in West Virginia right now, right? So because we went through that down here in Florida, they asked me to join in the Zoom call. And my big point to them was, and they say they have a handle on it, the lobbyists, is that whatever I said. I hope that's the case, because if the politicians want to do it, they're going to do it, because they don't accept the studies we give them. They don't have what they want. But what I really said to them was, you got to take their arrow off the target, okay, of us legitimate people out here doing it with honesty, integrity, education, and the MMTCs that are out there producing quality product that patients want and need. And they got to get the arrow on this unregulated garbage. That's unregulated garbage. And even the most pure of Delta 8 products, okay, and nobody has that, but it's still not Delta 9 THC.
It's astounding to me that our ag commissioner, who was, Nikki Fried, who talked about cannabis as being a key issue, has allowed this Delta 8 to just proliferate under her watch. It's absolutely baffling to me. The silence from her on that and actually having proper testing is just deafening. So it's been very hard for me. Nikki's a friend, but it's been very hard for me to watch that, as we have a medical program that's providing a transparent and quality product with lab testing to patients in a controlled setting at dispensaries. And then you can walk into a gas station and someone can put a sign up that says THC at a gas station and sell an untested product. It's completely baffling.
It is.
And by the way, that's her jurisdiction. She's let it happen.
No, for sure. And, listen, we need a state level testing for everything that's on a shelf in Florida for purity and quality and everything. But I just don't like the deception, of the big THC sign and the guy that's selling it says all THC is alike, Yep. So, it's within our industry too. And like I said, we will do it after the new year. We'll have you back. And serious, it is another aspect of it. And, listen, thanks for everything you do, and good luck on all of it.
And we have to be back because
anytime. I'm happy to come back. You guys tell me when, and it was a pleasure being on here with you. We'll talk soon.
Listen, and next time you're over on our coast and up in Sarasota, make sure you let me know. And
we'll make sure to get your Twitter account so we can. I got it. Okay, you got it. All right, it's on already. So we're all set on that. Perfect. Well, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Take care. And for everyone else, we'll see you next week before the holidays. Have a good one, everyone.